Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show you how to evaluate expressions with integers, and particularly algebraic expressions, okay? And what I mean by that is anything that has a variable and is also using positive and negative numbers, okay? So I'm going to start with this problem. I'm going to say, let's give us this let's do n plus 3. And we would like to know that if we have n plus 3 and n is equal to a -4, what would our answer be? Okay. So the first thing we have to do is we actually have to substitute. Okay. We're gonna have to take that n out because that's a variable. And we have to substitute this n equals -4 into the equation or to the expression. Okay. So what I'm going to do first is substitute. Substitute. All right. And so if I rewrite this over here, okay, if I take this -4, and let me highlight it here for you. If I take this -4 and I want to substitute it in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this number and literally replace n with -4. Okay, so -4 goes here in place of n. And then we have our original equation of just plus 3. Okay? And then the second thing you're going to do is you're just going to follow the order of operations, right? So you're just going to follow the order of operations because we've already plugged everything in. There's nothing else to actually substitute. So you're just going to follow the order of operations, right? PEMDAS. Order of operations. PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And so if we take this expression here, and I want to know what -4 plus 3 is, if you remember, right, we can take this -4 and we can represent that using 4 dots, right? 4 dots, one for each negative. And then we can also take our set and add in this +3. And when we're trying to add or subtract, right, and mostly when we're trying to add, right, you are going to pair up these 2 dots, and whatever is left over, you're going to pair up a positive and a negative dot. And whatever is left over, which in this case is a single negative dot, that is your answer. So we end up with a -1. Okay? Because there's one dot here that represents a negative. The other thing you can do is you can use a number line, right? And you can just draw a straight line like this, right? And if you start at -4, so you just draw your number line here and you start at -4. If we label, let's say, we have -4 right in the middle. Say we have -4 in the middle. And you're going to add 3, right? When you're going positive, that's over here. If you're going negative, that's over here on the left. And if I'm adding in positives, I'm going to hop to the right a few times to the right. I'm going to hop 3 times to the right. 1, 2, 3, because this is my +3, right? If I had done a -3, I would have gone toward my left. And if we go towards 0, right, we have -4, -3, -2, -1, -1, right? And then 0. So I end up again at -1. And then the last way that you can do this, if you've done this for a while, you're probably much better at this, unless you're just starting out, right? You can think, well, when I am adding in a positive integer here, okay, I can think about this as saying, well, I've got -$4 in the bank, and I'm going to be given $3. I'm going to add $3, 3 positive dollars to that account, right? I'm going to have -1. Okay, I'm going to have -$1 that I owe back to the bank. All right. The other thing you can do is you can take the absolute value of 4, right? Subtract 3, and then take so you have the absolute value of -4 is just 4. And then you're going to subtract the two integers, the two absolute values, and then you're going to keep the sign of the larger of the two, and that in this case was the 4, right? So because that was negative, then the 1 is negative. Okay? So that's what you're doing when you are trying to plug in a value. Let's see if we can try one that's a little bit different. Okay. And let's say we started out with 8m and then plus 3n. Okay, and let's assume that m, let me do this, m is equal to -5. Okay, so m is right there. And n, let's do n is equal to a +2. Okay. And again, first thing is we're going to substitute. So I'm going to substitute in the m first. I have 8 attached to this m. Let me do this in the right color. I have 8 attached to this m. And I'm going to plug in something for m, right? I'm going to plug in this -5 for m. And then I'm going to add in the 3. And then I'm also going to be substituting in a number for n. And that was our +2. Okay. And then we're going to solve. So first thing, right, PEMDAS, first thing is that you're going to multiply. You're going to have to multiply this 8 and this -5. And if you multiply those together, right, 8 times 5, if you remember when we're multiplying 8 times 5, gives us a absolute value of 40, right? Because 8 times 5 gives us 40. And then because we have an odd number of negatives, or because we're taking this -5 and multiplying it or adding it by itself 8 times, right, we're actually going to have a negative there, right? A negative times a positive makes a negative. Plus our 3 times 2, and we don't have to worry about that because 3 times 2 just gives us a positive integer because they're both positive, and that gives us a 6. And now you have to say, okay, just like before, what direction am I going? Okay, so I've got a -40 and I'm adding in positives. So I'm getting more positive ultimately, right? So if I start at -40, and then I make 6 hops towards 0, I'm actually getting smaller. So I'm going to end up at a -36. Okay. A -36. And you could draw those dots if you wanted to. That's going to probably take a while. You could use a number line, but the best way to think about it is, and it's not 36 actually, it's 34. 34. Okay, 34. See, you can do that too, right? You know that if you take 6 away from 34, you're going to get to -40. From -34, you're going to get to -40. And you can draw those dots, you can draw a number line, but you got to think, well, which way am I going? I'm getting more positive, so I'm going to head towards 0 6 steps.